Well, what a fabulous autumn morning, eh? Isn't it great? There's a plane just coming into Stornoway, and I see there's somebody fishing down there. I knew there was somebody out. It was such a nice morning and with water and whatnot. Well, it would be a shame not to be, wouldn't it? You know. So I'm going to take a wee run down to Gress, to the river here, have a wee cast, and then I think I might move to the creek again later in the day, just to see if I can't get a fish. But first I'll get down and see who's down here and have a chat, which is always part of the fun. What a lovely autumn morning, eh? Really fantastic. I don't know what date it is exactly. 12th of October maybe, so only a few days from the end of the season. And just the most fantastic morning. With very little wind and decent water in the river. Normally these pools need a bit of wind on them, but when there's decent water like this, you can sometimes get away with it, you know. So I'm gonna have a wee fish here, maybe a wee cup of tea, as is the tradition, and then my plan is to move to the Creed, but maybe I'll just stay here all day, you know. Could maybe move up the river. Depends how the weather and so on and so forth goes. There is actually another angler out. He's gone down below me. Had a wee chat with him, and he's not seen anything so far, but he had just started just before me. Just fished down this. And I thought I would give it a wee throw down. So, I think I'll go up and fish down the wee pools up above. And the wind actually this morning's just blowing slightly up the river, and I can smell the sea, which is, it's odd to stand up here in the river and smell the sea, you know. But, so I'm going to march up a wee bit and fish it down again, and then it'll be time for a cup of tea, I think. I'm just taking a wee wander up the river to fish the wee pools up here. I'm not going to go very far, but get a wee cast, and then as I go down I'll get a wee cup of tea. I think that's my plan. But this is looking good, you know, river's at a good height. Probably just about perfect, actually. So I'll give it a wee throw. See if I can't do some damage. It's not looking great for, you know, a pool on a spate river. You just can't beat that. And it's got a good height of water in it, and obviously fish can get up, no bother. So I'm going to go up and put the flies down it with a sort of optimism in my heart, and we'll see if we can't maybe hook a fish out of it. I don't hold out very high hopes, but you know, there's always a wee chance there's a fish in there. I'll hop up onto my big stone. Don't know if being up here on the skyline's a positive thing, but well, you can't resist standing on a big stone, you know. Oh. Well, there's the sun coming, a wee blink. Hopefully the cloud will cover it up again. But nonetheless. That's me done on the new pool. Let's move down to the wee pool now and see if I've any joy down there. Right, time to give the wee pool or the small pool a bit of a hammer. It's not a big pool as the name would indicate, but again, a lovely home pool for spate water, you know. Looks just like the sort of the ideal spot to find a wee fish in it. So I'll go up this top and start down, and then we'll see how that goes. Sort myself out. I'm sure I must just have caught the bank. You might be shouting, asking what I'm doing, and the answer is that I'm throwing a conehead red Francis, and I hope it still counts as fly fishing. But I just had a feeling that I wanted to put one down here before I have a cup of tea, and it's fairly whistling past my head, so that's something to take note of. But I'll give it a quick run down. I'd better actually lift my net. My net's sitting on the ground behind me, but I'd better lift it and move it down, because in the very slim chance that I hook a fish, there's so few fish about this year that if I lost one because I didn't have a net, I'd probably get the sack. At the weekend we'd very high water here, and one of the anglers was wearing felt-soled waders, they had studs on them, and managed to go into the river just here and was washed over the dam or weir or whatever you call it at the bottom of the pool and into the rapids below. Now, luckily he survived with no major injuries, but even so, that would be a seriously unpleasant shock for anyone. So I guess the lesson here is, if you're going to wear felt-soled waders, don't walk about on the grass on them. I know anybody could slip and go in, and it's always a risk, but obviously good to minimise the risk. So let's make some tea, get a wee warm up. Cup of tea on the go, and I'm eating olives. I don't know, just had an urge for olives, so I have a wee bag of olives with me that I'm having. This river's dropping very quickly. I've only been here an hour, maybe a bit more, a couple hours, but it's dropped, I would say, maybe 3 inches, 4 inches since I got here. So it's dropping pretty rapidly, you know. And unfortunately, I haven't moved a fish, and the other angler that's out hasn't moved anything either. So it's not looking very promising. I might give the Red Francis one more bang down this pool, just a quick dunk, 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 just to see if I can move anything. But I want to move rivers and drink tea as well. It's a lovely autumn day, and it's not windy, and it's nice and loose when it's not windy, you know, because you start to hear all the things you don't hear when it's normally blowing a gale. So that's nice. But it's cool, so I have the buffalo on at the minute just while I drink my tea to warm me up. Isn't it great? The other thing to say is, and I know we're struggling with fish this year, and it has been a bad year all round, certainly on the west coast. But this is a association water. If you want to fish here, there's no problem. You can get day tickets and whatnot. Just come along. The club are really friendly. And if they have a Facebook page, and if you get in contact with them before you come, they'll keep you right. They'll point you at all the best spots and look after you. So it's well worth coming and giving it a shot if you're coming to Lewis, and especially if you get water. Now, there are also the saltings, which you may have seen me fish, and they fish well without water. They prefer high tides, but again, fish get caught all sorts of tides. So there are lots of options no matter the weather, you know. Even if you've got dry weather, the Sultans will fish for you probably, or they're at least worth a cast, you know. So make sure, certainly if you're a visitor, that you come along here and have a bash. Apart from anything else, you can sit here and have tea, and you can't beat it. Walk, walk, walk up the hill to the car, and then off to the Creed. Well, it's as well I like walking, and what a lovely day it is. You see, if I turn around, you see, coming up from the river, but listen to how quiet it is, because there's no wind, or very little wind. Yeah, so I was able to hear the stags roaring as I was getting out of the car there, and you know, we're quite close into the village, so but it's just so quiet. So off to another river. It's great to have the choice, you know, and we'll see how we do there. I've moved over from Gress to the Stornoway Angling Association water on the River Creed here, and gonna give this a wee cast. And as ever, I always start with a wee throw at the top of this. I don't ever catch anything, but to be honest, that doesn't much matter. I'd like to start with a wee throw here, and it does look fantastic, and I've moved fish in it, but where you put it, I've never caught anything out of it. So I think I'm going to put on a tube, fast sinker, and give this a try with that, and we'll see how we go. It certainly is at a good height and falling. So, well, if there's fish in here, we always stand a chance of getting one, you know. There we go. I'm going to start with one of these park shrimp, I think it is, on a tube, on a weighted tube, and have a fast sinking line on. And we'll give this a try and see if we can't move ourselves a fish. Don't know what the likelihood is. Can't be high, but we'll give it our best bash. Right, that's a quick run through here, and I'm going to move up to the next pool. This is just to get me started. Then it'll be lunchtime, I think. Another spot for a wee cast, and the day's actually starting to warm up. It was cool in the morning, a cool breeze, but it's like the breeze has warmed up. There's been a change in the conditions. I had put the buffalo on grass just to keep the chill off, especially while I was sitting having my cup of tea. But the buffalo might have to come off for the heat. So, I think it's lunchtime. I think I'll go and find the seat and make some lunch. Because the hunger's starting to come on me. Time for our traditional look at the falls pool. And it's fairly scushing over there today. Look at that. Isn't it great? Good height. Plenty of water. No fish. But we'll have some lunch. And we'll try and chase the fish that's here, you know. And it's pretty challenging going, but I think I'm up to the challenge. I'm having a wee cup of tea before my lunch on the falls pool on the River Gress. And just, some of you may be wondering why the fishing is so challenging this year. If you want to see fish get caught, you have to look at last year's videos. But the situation was that this part of the country, just the Isle of Lewis, had the driest summer since 1880. Truly remarkable. The clouds just all orbited around it and left it in the middle. So there was no rain here from May until mid-September. meaning that our fish simply didn't get out of the sea. And the seals and porpoises and dolphins and cormorants and so on and so forth all arrived in numbers and feasted upon our salmon. And so we have many rivers that have very, very low numbers of fish. And this happens to be one of them. This river produced nearly 200 fish by this time last year and has produced 2 this year. So I mean, it's not just like we're down in numbers, we have no fish. It's really just remarkable. Perfect conditions today, and I fished here 2-3 days maybe in perfect conditions and not even seen a fish. But I'm going to give it another wee bash today, just for the purposes of enjoyment and a day out. It has got milder all of a sudden. The wind feels like it's changed direction. What wind there is, there's very little, as you can see. And I think the midges are coming out, would you believe it? So I'm going to have my cup of tea, have my lunch, walk further up the river, see if I can get a wee cast, and hope for a fish. But to be honest, it's challenging. The chances are very, very slim. And it's going to be hard work to get a fish, you know. I'm trying all the obvious and right places, and I have a big tube on the sinking line at the minute just in case there's anything lying down there. But going to be tough going. But we'll give it a wee bash anyhow once I get my lunch into me. I had my cup of tea and my lunch and I came up here, and it's amazing not to be fighting against the wind. It's I mean, I know wind's essential for a lot of our loch fishing, but nonetheless it is nice to get a calm day out. And I come up here and brought the camera and stuck it on, because if anywhere's going to produce a fish, I guess this has to be. In this height of water, this has to be in your sort of top selection. So I thought, well, I'll pin the camera on and get it going, just in case. See. I kind of feel that the water might be too high for there to be a fish in here today, because it's a bit above the level at which I've ever seen a fish move in here. But I'll give it a wee throw and see. It's unusual to stand here at this time of year and not hear a few stags roaring round about, but there's been none today. There's also, as you might have noticed, been no fish. And this is one of my favourite spots for a fish. I've got to say that the fish are mostly a bit further up the pool than this. But maybe in this higher water, you know, they'll move down a wee bit. But and believe it or not, I'm getting the odd bite from a midge. Not many, not enough to call it an attack, but one or two, which for middle of October, I guess, is good going. So, I think that'll do me. I think I'll move up a bit further again. Up to the junction post for a wee cast, and it's looking in fine fettle. It's not a pool I particularly like, but it's a pool that always has fish in it, assuming there's any fish here at all. So I'm going to give it a wee fish down and see if there's anything to move. I very much doubt it, but we'll have to give it a try. And then I'll start working my way back down the river again. There's a few pools up higher than this that are worth fishing in this sort of condition, but I don't think I'll be bothering going up any further. Just doesn't seem worth it, you know. Right. From here down, we have to show maximum optimism. Well, I've been showing it the best optimism I can, but even that's not working, that I can see. Now, see when a wee fish jumps like that, I often think it's because a big one has disturbed it. So I'm gonna guess that my cast disturbed the salmon out of there. Probably the salmon ran down, would be my guess, and disturbed that wee fish as it went past. Basically chased it out of the way. This should be even a wee bit heavier than what I had on, so I'm going to put it quickly through here just in case, and then that'll do me, you know. It's just give it a wee chance. Right, I think that'll do us here for today. I might get another day here before I call it quits, but it seems unlikely, but I might. But again, it hardly seems to matter when there's so few fish about, you know. But we'll have a few casts probably on the way down. And it's amazing there's no stags roaring closer in. There's usually stags in that wood in front of us, and maybe they've seen us and are a bit nervous with the whole thing. Plus there's often some over here as well, but the only ones roaring are way out, a long way out. I'd be pretty sure you can't hear them on the GoPro. So but it adds to the autumn fishing, I think, you know. Stags roaring, river in good condition. Just a pity there's no fish, really. The mist's beginning to turn to sort of misty rain. So, if it isn't enough that I have to suffer having caught no fish, I'm also now going to have to get wet. But a couple of casts here on the way back to the car. So back down here with the big orange conehead thing. Officially I'm walking for the car at the minute, but unofficially I just have to have another wee cast here to get my breath back, and see if there's anything in here. I've got to say that the fish here, in here, you know, there's not that many pools below us, I guess, so it's the fish used to lie in here, you know, and used to be lots of fish plopping around in this pool. But this year, because there's so few fish, you wonder, you know, even if a fish was to move in here, it's been in the pools below pretty much all summer. And I guess It's seen every fly under the sun and refused them. So it's probably not a taken fish. With this mist and sort of mizzly rain setting in, it's almost dark here now. I would imagine the GoPro's having to crank up the ISO fairly significantly so you can even see the slightest thing. So I think I'm gonna call it quits here now. Snip off the fly, and that's me done. It's been a long day with me fishing Gress and here, and basically not seeing a single fish. Very remarkable.